we've heard those magic words AI and data already in this session. The next session with Mark Papendieck from Dash will really drill into some of the issues and some of the opportunities to expand on Peter's question a moment ago, some of the opportunities that advisors themselves are already starting to take advantage of. Please welcome Mark Papendieck.
Thank you, Toby. Good morning, all. Couple of disclosures up front. Firstly, advice tech, the topic is meant to be emerging advice tech, but what you'll hear from me this morning is actually probably not what you would traditionally call advice tech. Second thing to know is I know the CFS team have a really good session on AI coming up later on in the day, but if anybody tries to talk to you about emerging advice tech and doesn't talk about AI, you should probably stop listening. So I am going to talk about it a little bit, but leave it mostly to CFS. And so, look, while the session is, as I said, a tech session, there's a very good reason why I'm not going to start with talking about tools. So if you came to hear me talking about tools to start with, for the first half of the presentation, I will disappoint you. And that's because this discussion has to be as much about business strategy as it does about tech. In fact, deploying tech like a kid in a lolly shop with all of the tools and AI that's now available to us is a mistake, and I'll tell you why it's a mistake as we go through. So frameworks to start with, foundations, and then we can talk about tools. So just briefly, the perspective we're coming from is, as Rajat mentioned, we have a private client part to our business, we have a financial planning software part to our business, we're an MDA service provider, so we sit across many segments of the market, so we get to see many different sorts of practices and private client businesses as we go. So what I'd like to share with you for the next 25 minutes or so is really our insights as to how those practices are thinking about this question of adopting emerging advice tech, how they're going about thinking about foundations and infrastructure, and then putting tools into that framework. So that's what we'll try and cover off in 25 minutes or so. But to address AI to start with, one of the most common things that I hear about AI is that, oh look, it's just like the internet. Change is going to be slow. Yeah, it might change my life eventually, but it's not going to be that disruptive to me. Well, let me tell you, AI is not like the internet. And the best way I can describe it is if you think about the internet, it was really about taking offline processes and moving them online. It was about the change in how information was shared and connectivity of data. So offline things like, Rajat mentioned Uberization, the way we order taxis has changed, the way we order food, movies, the way we bank has changed. So internet, taking offline processes and putting them online. And in that process, it really left the creative side of things with humans entirely. It left decision-making with humans entirely. AI is fundamentally different. What AI does is, yes, it can change how we do things, but more importantly, and this is where the fundamental difference is, it changes who can do things. So humans or machines, fundamentally. So firstly, AI will have a deeper impact because it is different to the internet. It's changing different things. Secondly, as you can see from that graph up there, it's being adopted so much more quickly than the internet was. Internet took 7 years to reach 100 million users. ChatGPT, 3 months. So deeper impact, it's happening faster. This next graph, don't focus on all the mess in the middle. Focus on the bottom, dates at the bottom. July 23 on the left as you look at it, and July 25 on the right. And the blue line there is showing you how quickly AI has improved in accuracy. And this is just one test against advanced science level PhD, but it's saying 2 years ago, these large language models in particular, and AI is very broad, large language models were really no better than a human randomly guessing 2 years ago. 2 years later, today, they're now better than a PhD level human, significantly better. So 2 years, they've advanced in accuracy. The red line is showing you how much a token of output is costing to produce. So coming down. So again, put all them together and what you have is a fundamentally different technology that will change who does things and how things get done, being rapidly adopted, rapidly improving, and the cost of which is rapidly declining. So that's why the first point on my slide says, it actually doesn't matter anymore if you believe in AI, if you're a fan, if you're not a fan, economics always wins. And what that means is that as soon as advice practices are delivering more personalised advice, more quickly, more efficiently, at a lower cost, that the conversation shifts pretty quickly from, oh, I believe or I don't believe, into, well, how am I going to respond? So again, forget about whether you like AI or not. The reality is it is going to change things fundamentally, and you will economically care when you need to respond to make your business compete with, or your clients, not leave for somebody who's doing things more personalised, more quickly, more cheaply and more quickly. Now, the other common objection that I hear is, but AI is, there's security issues, there's privacy issues, and look, they're true, absolutely true, but on the other hand, they're actually also really surface level objections. They're lazy objections. They're lazy because literally type into ChatGPT how to solve them and you can solve them. So we'll talk about solving them, but they are very, very solvable, but not downplaying how important they are, because they are important issues. So let's talk about solving them. So now technology change isn't something that people like doing. It's horrible, it's not fun. And in practices, maybe you think about a major tech change every, as little as possible, but maybe 5 years, every 7 years. But if you haven't thought about it even the last 2 years, the way you need to think about it now has changed. The tool sets that are available to us now demand we think about things a little bit differently. Rajat mentioned 20 years ago there was these monolithic systems where the front end was bolted onto the back end, these core systems. But really for the last 15 years or so, decisions for practices have been around a patchwork approach. And it sounds bad, it's not meant to sound bad, but really it's saying that people were choosing best of breed providers and trying to patch them together. There was data sharing issues and double data entry and trying to make them work together. And that was the reality for really the last 15 years. But things have changed now. And cloud computing is absolutely the number one place that everybody should be starting today, because, well, for a number of reasons, which we'll go through, but fundamentally, if you haven't chosen a cloud computing provider, and there's no bad choices, it's either going to be Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, so no bad choices, that's where you need to start. And you need to start because of a couple of reasons. One is it solves that security and privacy issue straight away, enterprise-grade security for all of your data, corporate data and your client data as well. And also because it gives you access to these foundation large language models and other AI tools, including a lot of robotic and machine learning tools, natively within those cloud computing platforms. So that's where you need to start. Now, one of the other key reasons why that is where you need to start is because they give you access to so many more things. Now, not many people have probably stopped to think about your iPhone and when your iPhone first came to market in 2007, if you didn't know. But the reason it came to market in 2007, not a year before in 2006 and not a year later in 2008, was because that was the year that there was this confluence of the right technology being available, the ability to manufacture that technology, the touchscreen stuff, at the right price point. So you had technology, you had manufacturing capability, and you had price point. The same moment is here now for us with cloud computing. And it sounds boring to start with, but cloud computing again gives us the security I mentioned, enterprise-grade security for our data, clients and enterprise. It gives us access to these AI, LLM, machine learning tools, all under the category of AI, in a secure, private environment. But also it gives us access to these no-code tools. Who's heard of no-code or vibe coding? Anyone used any of those sort of tools? Yeah, a couple, great. We'll talk more about them in a minute, but the advent of those four things, the confluence of those things coming together, demand that we all rethink the way that we do things. And that's where this analogy with the caterpillar comes in. That is, if you are just taping wings onto a caterpillar and saying, hey, this is a butterfly, no, it's not. It's a caterpillar with wings. If you are taking your business processes that you have today and just throwing random tools at those processes, well, you've still got the processes, they're just, lipstick on a pig, as the saying goes. So the tools that we now have demand that we actually rethink and re-engineer and start again and actually create a butterfly, not a caterpillar with wings. And we'll talk about no-code tools in a minute because they really do make the final piece of the puzzle, I think. And so as we're re-engineering and reimagining how we can actually do things, and as I said before, who does things in our businesses, machines or people, we have this innovator's dilemma that we all have to face. And Google is probably the great case in point at the moment. Everyone's talking about the threat to Google's search ad revenue from chatbots. People are starting to use these AI chatbots more than they are search. Sorry, not yet more than search, but on the way. And so Google has this choice. Do they respond and try and protect, or sorry, firstly, do they try and protect their search revenue, or do they actually start to cannibalise their own business by launching Gemini and upgrading their AI chatbot before it's actually ready to replace, from a revenue perspective, the search revenue that they're going to lose? So that's what they've decided to do. Now, I'm not suggesting that for you guys that this is an existential question just yet, but I am suggesting, as I indicated before, about as soon as somebody can deliver more personal advice, more quickly, more efficiently, more cheaply, we have to respond. So responding does mean thinking about how we go about engineering our practices and our business. So just a quick recap. Starting point, I'm saying, must be the foundational stuff. It must be the cloud computing platform, because it delivers you so many tools that we'll talk about in a minute that you must have. And in the same way that you probably heard the saying, data is the new oil. Well, it is, but if you think about oil, it's worth more when it's flowing. Your data is the same. So you want your data back in your cloud environment. And to the question before, machine learning and AI and automation in advice practices works best when all your data is not in these patchwork systems, but it's all in your environment. So yeah, you want data flowing, and you want it flowing back into your environment. But as you're thinking about how to put all of this together, and as you're thinking about, okay, well, I've got my cloud computing, I know what I'm going to do here. What do you think your biggest risk is? Do you think you're ready to start selecting tools? Well, I don't think you are, because the biggest risk at this point is that whole kid in the lolly shop syndrome. It's that you start automating just willy-nilly, and in fact you start automating what you should be really protecting, and you overlook what your true value proposition is, and you overlook what you should in fact be amplifying. So this is the business strategy part, where unless you're super clear on what your unique value proposition to your clients is today and the next couple of years, you are not going to select the right tools, because you don't know what you're selecting for. So what I say to businesses is, think about your business now and in maybe 2-3 years' time. And don't think about the tools that might be there in the future. Just think about what is there, the capabilities that are here today. So think about, firstly, what AI will replace. So what are the repeatable, rules-based, low-value things that should be invisible to your clients, that are easily not done by a human anymore? So what can you automate? Second category is, what are the things that you want to augment? So the things that we all do better using AI tools, where you still want the human in the loop, but you know that they can either do it quickly, better, at a higher efficiency rate, when it's augmented by AI. But this third bucket, I think, is perhaps the most important, and that is, what are the things that AI can't do, shouldn't do, or that's where your true value proposition is. And this is where you need to double down and make sure that whatever tools you're going to select, whatever it is that you choose to automate, doesn't automate away your value proposition, but in fact select tools that are going to amplify your value proposition. Whether in your business it's you, maybe it's you personally, maybe it's the relationship that you have with your clients, maybe it's your investment proposition, well, whatever it is, and it will be slightly different for everybody, but understand what it is and find tools, A, don't automate that value proposition away, and B, find tools that actually amplify your unique value proposition. Bridget mentioned before, I was sitting there listening when he was talking about the North's BBB. I was trying to think, not big beautiful bill, but this is the AAA. This is work out what you're going to automate, work out what you want AI to augment, and then amplify as well. So tying that together, it's critical that you've got that infrastructure in place. So you've got all the tools now at your disposal, you've got the capabilities ready to go, but don't forget this step, because without understanding what you're going to do with those tools, what's the outcome that you want, what do you want to protect, what do you want to get rid of, then you're actually ready to get stuck into tools. So infrastructure ready means having the cloud computing platform ready to go, solving the security issues, solving the privacy issues at a fundamental level, getting all of your data, again, the oil, the data flowing back into your environment, so you can use these tools across everything, across your client data, across your data. That's step one. Sadly for vendors and suppliers and platforms, it's a necessity of life, I think, that there's going to be things that you will still need from outside of your cloud platform. So there's still going to be the need for these things like connectors. So the messy reality, other than that picture, looks a little bit more like this. And so let me now dig into some of these. I know it's a little bit hard to see, so I apologise. But as Toby said, the slides are in the handout for some more detail. But I'm not going to touch on everything here, but I just want to call out a couple of things. Firstly, where those red asterisks, exclamation marks, I think they are on screen, it's really just pointing out that from a privacy perspective, and security and privacy when we're talking about data and cyber is absolutely paramount. Just pointing out that where you're not using an Australian-based in a privacy perspective, meaning if the data is being processed or stored offshore, be really aware that, you know, as an AFSL as a licensee or as an authorised rep, we have obligations about Australian privacy principles. And so making sure that we understand if we're relying on an exception, 8.3 to the Australian privacy principles, then we need to understand the jurisdiction that these guys are working in. So where this is a non-Australian data processed and data stored provider, I've just put that asterisk there so you can do your own research. So with that in mind, the reality again is that you are going to need to connect to some of these things. I wanted to talk more about the no-code or the vibe coding or the low-code solutions here, because again, what the advent of that no-code tools with the advent of cloud computing and AI and security brings to you is a chance to change the value chain somewhat. What might have cost you or a company like us maybe $50,000 to develop from a software app perspective 3 years ago, you can now produce for under a couple of dollars. And I'll show you that. So I'm not saying that you want to turn your businesses into software businesses. You don't. But there are many, many things where you will want and will need a bespoke client experience or maybe a bespoke staff experience that are within your grasp now to do. And you don't need to be able to code. You need to be able to clearly articulate in English what it is that you want, and you can produce that within your own cloud environment for your staff or externally as well. And here's a really brief demonstration. I'm not sure how I'll click play from here. Hopefully it's just enter, but this was something that I did actually. Somebody asked me in Melbourne on Tuesday, said, oh, yeah, what about if I wanted to design I think it was a fact find? And so, oops. So this was, somebody said, what about if I wanted to have a fact find? So literally typed a prompt into, I think this was ChatGPT. The prompt, I refined it for a minute or two, and then typed it into Replit, which is a no-code tool. And as you can see here, I literally pasted the prompt in here, and it's saying that it then worked for 11 minutes without me, and it cost me 92 cents, and it produced this working tool. I'm not suggesting it looks great. I'm not suggesting it's got all the information in it. What I am saying to you is that if you'd spent more than the 5 minutes that I spent creating a poor prompt, then this tool has delivered me a front end, a working front end capable of uploading docs for under $1 in under 11 minutes. And that's without me even refining it or saying, no, please change this or do that. Now, what I would then do, if I thought this was amazing, I'd get the API key from my cloud provider and I'd have it dump this data straight back. I'd have probably clearly set up an authorization that is a secure authorization from my cloud, Microsoft, Amazon or Google environment. So the client would log in, all secure within my environment, and no data stored here. It's passed straight back into my environment. So just an example. I'm not suggesting that that's a use case that you should replicate, but I'm just saying to you guys that whatever it is that you want to do these days, whether it's for your staff internally, whether it's a process, you can use an external tool like that to either prototype, or if it's not going to capture and store sensitive client information, have it dump it back into your environment, or use one of these tools in that window, the bubble on the far right-hand side. Different tools within Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, but they all do the same sort of thing. So I'm just suggesting to you guys in the context of reimagining how you're doing things, that these tools are available to anybody that can speak and understands what they want, and they can create bespoke experiences for you and your clients straight away. Zapier is on the left-hand side as I'm looking at it, and Zapier is another amazing tool. So yes, it's American, and America doesn't have the federal privacy laws, so you've got to think about, when you're thinking about privacy principles state by state, sadly, in America. But Zapier is a California company. They process and they store data in California, which has GDPR, Australian privacy principles legislation in place. So you can, not legal advice, do your own research, but in my view, we do rely on Zapier as APP compliant. And it opens up the universe for you to do so many wonderful things and bring data back into your systems. And I'll show you some of those things in just a second. So really, I guess I'm suggesting to you that cloud platform number one, because it's the first decision to make, because it gives you all of the things that you need as a baseline. Understanding what it is that you're wanting them to do, so keeping in mind your key value proposition to your clients, making sure you don't outsource, automate that, you amplify that. And here's some examples of taking that, and again, not suggesting that these are workflows or things that you guys should be doing, but just examples of how you can reimagine something that might currently happen in your business. So what that workflow is on the left there is it's a rebalance. So it's a change that you might make to one of your model portfolios. Maybe you increase the weighting to security A or decrease the weighting to security B. And this is now set up so that each time you change a weighting in an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, it then triggers all of these other things to happen. And so I don't know what happens in your business at the moment when you change a model. Maybe you don't tell your clients or your investors at all. Maybe it triggers an email. But really this is now set up so that in this particular case, when you change a model, and assuming that data, that sheet is stored in your cloud environment, and the research behind why you made that change to that security in your model is also stored in your corporate data in that environment. On the right-hand side, as you look at it, it's really saying, well, in this case, the advisor has that model managed. That model managed as an SMA on one platform. They have an IMA somewhere else, and they have an MDA somewhere else. They've got clients everywhere. So this model is then taking that change and putting it into the format required by each broker or each platform that the trades need to go to. And on the other side, it's actually taking the change that was made in the spreadsheet, combining it with the research that sat behind why the change was made, and then sending it to a large language model. I think this is a Microsoft environment, so it's Copilot, which is just a rebadged OpenAI ChatGPT. It's creating a script. So why did that change happen? Look at my research, look at the change. And then what it's doing is sending that script off to an avatar generator. In this case, HeyGen was the tool that was used. And then it's returning that avatar in an email to the advisor as a draft to say, hey, you're ready to send this out. So think again in the context of what I was saying before about like AAA, as I'm now going to call it. So the advisor's trying to amplify their unique value proposition, which is them. So they've made a change, all of the stuff that needs to be invisible to the client, that is, okay, well, you've made the change, you've got the research, how do I combine all of that into a compelling piece of communication for my clients that amplifies me, the advisor? A step further that you actually could have gone here would be to say, well, my baby boomer clients, they just don't want to see this video of me, so you know what, I'm going to add an extra step in here that says if the client is over 60, don't send the avatar, actually just turn it into an email. And you can take that as far as you want. I'll show some more examples in a minute. But so that's the point of reimagining how you're doing things, and that's a use case that is, to be honest, super easy to set up, and very possible if you've got your data in the cloud environment. Now, this is just...
Raoul's now on vacation, so you're stuck with me, Palvatar, his AI avatar. I'll keep you company while he's away, so you get your daily dose of Raoul and the most important market headlines. That's a pretty good deal, right? Of course.
Now, you don't know, Raoul, but that is how far this AI avatar technology has come. That's pretty slick. You would, if he hadn't told you that's an AI avatar, and that's the right thing to do, by the way. If you're using avatars, you should say that it is an avatar, because that technology has come a long, long way. But again, from a market update perspective, having one of those in your client's inbox every Monday morning or whatever it is, that's just so easy to do these days. Now, this is a tool that we have digital docs, and it could be used for a statement of advice, it could be used for an MDA agreement, and the point is that you can take what is maybe a soulless Word document and turn it into a digital doc with an avatar. Now, this is an advisor who I don't think is here today, but James Gerard is financialadvisor.com, and James isn't as slick as Raoul, but again, in the context of amplifying what his unique value proposition is, that's James. He knows all of his clients, and instead of just giving them a document, an MDA review or an SOA, he actually has his avatar talking to them about the doc.
The About You section provides a snapshot of your details and covers areas relating to your income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. Towards the bottom, there is also a section regarding your risk profile, which shows how comfortable you generally are with taking risks and experiencing market volatility.
Look, I'll leave it there as well. But the point again isn't that you need to sound slick. If your clients know who you are and you're your value proposition to your clients, they want to hear from you. They don't expect you to be anything other than who you are. So again, all of this technology is available today. And if it's used in the context of what am I trying to replace, what am I trying to make invisible to my clients, and how do I make sure that my unique value proposition to my clients is preserved, that's how to think about these things. So here are some use cases. Here are some generic stats, and here are some use cases from practices that they're actually clients of ours that are using some of these tools and some of the efficiencies that they're achieving. But again, whilst the file notes and the meeting transcripts, that's the most common use case and a first step, I guess. People often say, well, what's the first use case? How should I start using these sort of tools in my business? You know what, everybody's business is different. Everybody has a different unique value proposition. Everybody has a different use case. And so what I say to people when they ask me that question is two things to keep in mind. Change here comes from the top down. So culturally, leadership, the owners of the practice, the senior people in the business need to drive the change and manage that cultural, which is a really big point actually. And we'll come back to culture if we get time, which you probably won't later. But what I say then is that change comes from the bottom up. So empower your staff, give them the tools. They know what they could do better, what they could augment, what they can just get rid of because they can automate it. And you know what, if they truly don't know where to start, honestly, the tip would be type your role into ChatGPT, into your Copilot if you're a Microsoft user, keep it secure. But type in your role, say, hey, this is what I do, these are the things that I do, suggest to me what I could be automating, augmenting, or amplifying. So it'll tell you. So if you don't know where to start, ask AI. So look, to finish with, I say that, again, the biggest threat is that we actually overlook what our key value proposition is and we go and pick tools without having a strategy in place. And again, the old saying, AI won't take your job, but somebody using it will. Sure, but AI is not going to replace human relationships. There's a great story about chess that I think it was 97 when it was the first time that AI actually beat a grandmaster at chess, and everybody thought, oh, that's it, chess is done, there's no interest in it anymore. I can tell you chess has boomed over the last 10 years. There's more interest now, more humans wanting to play and watch chess than ever before. But it makes no sense if you think about it logically because machines can beat us every time. But it's that human element. And it's the same with financial planning. And I actually don't think that AI is any good at predicting things. It's not. It's got a historic data set. It predicts your next word. It doesn't understand human dynamics. It can't understand how a family is going to need to deal with a divorce or intergenerational wealth transfer. Humans are not going away from financial planning. So leverage your unique value proposition. Make sure that you embrace the fundamental change that these tools deliver to you, because again, the risk here is not that you're going to get replaced, but that another firm that does embrace these tools will take your clients. Thank you.
Now, are there questions for Mark? There's a lot in that. John, yeah, just the microphone, John.
Thanks for your excellent presentation. You probably answered the question in that last comment you made, but your first heading of shut the heck up about AI, can you add a couple of brief heading points to summarise what you meant by that? Because we can't shut the heck up about it.
No, correct. It's just that people, and to be honest, I often, like some of my colleagues will look at an agenda for a conference like this and say, oh, AI again. And everyone says, oh, AI, I don't believe in it, or I don't want to hear about it anymore. That was the context. And so, no, we can't stop talking about it. And no, it's going to continue to be on conference agendas because it is fundamentally going to be, it's going to, again, make us all reimagine our business.
Can't replace us totally.
No.
Can I give you an example from our own business? We're in the process of migrating our data suppliers from ASX and Clearstream to Refinitiv, to Workspace. But I want to automate. I mean, the process of getting data out every day is just a routine process. I went to Claude, which is the one I personally use, and said, write me a Python script to extract the data by looking at this place in in OneDrive to get the today's holdings, extract close of day prices, and put it on this SFTP site. I had the script in about 30 seconds, and then I remembered I needed the RIC codes as well. So I said, "Oh, and add the RIC codes." Bang, back came. Like this is today's world.
And on the humanity, the other good example is the medical one. So large language models are now better at diagnosing medical conditions than humans are, and significantly better. So does that mean that we're not going to want doctors anymore? Absolutely not. Because yes, they might be able to diagnose things more quickly and more accurately, but how empathetic AIs can mimic empathy. But imagine if you put your MRI in or something and it says, yes, you have terminal cancer. Doctors aren't going away either. People want that human connection, and doctors are a role where AI will augment what doctors do. It'll make them better at what they do. Even though AI is technically better, that human element won't go. So I think human relationships actually are going to be more valued in the next, forever than they have been previously in all industries.
Look, Mark, thanks very much.